Hi there, welcome to Fantasy Hub. I'm Mia, your storyteller. Today's story is filled with heartache, discovery, and a twist you won't see coming. So let's begin.
I never wanted a bodyguard. Famous novelists don't usually need them, unless your ex-best friend decides to make your life a living nightmare. Sarah Martinez. We'd been inseparable since college, building our careers together, sharing everything. I thought she was celebrating my success when my latest thriller hit the bestseller list. I was wrong. The first letter arrived on a Tuesday. Cut-out magazine letters spelling threats across expensive stationery. You don't deserve this life. Classic stalker material, really, almost cliché. My publisher insisted on security, and that's how Kennedy Stone walked into my penthouse and turned my world upside down. She was nothing like I expected. 6 feet of controlled power in a tailored black suit with steel gray eyes that seemed to catalog every exit, every threat, every vulnerability, including mine. Her handshake was firm, professional, and sent an unexpected jolt straight through me. "Miss Flores," she said, her voice like whiskey over gravel. "I'm Kennedy Stone, Blackwater Security. I'll be your primary protection detail." I should have been intimidated. Instead, I found myself wondering what those hands would feel like without the tactical gloves. The rules were simple. Kennedy would be my shadow everywhere I went, everything I did. Someone trained to kill would be watching. No privacy, no secrets, no normal life. What they didn't mention was how intoxicating it would be to have someone so dangerous, so capable, so absolutely off limits, paying attention to my every move. Those first weeks were torture. Kennedy was the perfect professional, alert, courteous, and completely unreadable. She'd stand in the corner of my office while I wrote, her presence both comforting and electric. I'd catch myself glancing up from my laptop, studying the sharp line of her jaw, the way her fingers drummed silently against her thigh when she was thinking. The worst part? The way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't watching. Like she was fighting the same battle I was taught. It was the little things that got to me first. How Kennedy took her coffee black, no sugar, like she was punishing herself for something. The way she unconsciously touched a scar on her left knuckle when she was concentrating. The fact that she'd read every single one of my books and could quote passages back to me during our security briefings. "Your protagonist in Midnight Confessions," she said one evening, reviewing the next day's schedule. "Elena, she's reckless." I looked up from my manuscript. "She's passionate." Same thing in my experience. There was something in her tone that made me set down my pen. Speaking from experience, Agent Stone. Her eyes met mine, and for just a moment, I saw past the professional mask. There was heat there, carefully banked but unmistakable. "I don't discuss personal matters with clients, Miss Flores." But her voice had dropped an octave, and when she said my name, it sounded like a prayer and a curse all at once. The tension built like a gathering storm. Kennedy would position herself just close enough that I could smell her cologne, something dark and expensive that made me want to press my face against her throat. During our evening security checks, her fingers would brush mine as she handed me reports, and I swear the air crackled between us. I started testing her resolve. Silk robes that slipped off my shoulders during late-night writing sessions, accidentally dropping pens so she'd have to move closer to retrieve them. Asking her opinion on love scenes I was writing, watching. Her jaw clench as I read particularly steamy passages aloud. "Does this sound realistic to you, Kennedy?" I'd ask, my voice honey-sweet. The way Elena responds when Marcus pins her against the wall. Kennedy's knuckles would go white against her coffee cup. "Very realistic, Miss Flores." The night everything changed, I was working late in my office. Kennedy stood by the window, checking the street below for the 100th time. Her reflection in the glass showed the same careful control, but something was different. Tighter, more focused. I set down my pen and walked over to her. You know, I said softly, sometimes I wonder what you're really protecting me from. She didn't turn around. Threats to your safety, Miss Flores. Is that all? Her reflection's eyes met mine in the glass. What else would there be? I stepped closer, close enough that my breath fogged the window beside hers. Maybe you're protecting me from yourself. That's when she turned. Her eyes were darker than I'd ever seen them, and when she spoke, her voice was rough with restraint. Camilla, see something you like, Bodyguard? The question slipped out before I could stop it, but I didn't regret it. Kennedy's control finally cracked, just a hairline fracture, but enough. Just doing my job, she managed. I laughed, and it came out throatier than I intended. Liar. The power went out on a Thursday night. A summer storm had been building all day, and when it finally hit, it took out half the city's grid. Kennedy was immediately on high alert, her hand moving instinctively to her weapon as emergency lighting kicked in. Probably just the weather, I said, but she was already on her radio, checking with the security company. Command, this is Stone. We've lost main power, switching to backup systems. Static crackled back. Copy that, Stone. Weather service shows severe storm citywide. You're clear to shelter in place. The penthouse felt different in the amber glow of emergency lighting. Smaller, more intimate. I'd lit a fire earlier, and now it provided the only warm light in the room. Kennedy moved through the space like a predator, checking logs, testing backup systems, her body coiled with tension. Kennedy, I said softly, it's just a storm. She paused by the couch, her silhouette outlined by firelight. In my line of work, there's no such thing as just anything. I moved toward her, my bare feet silent on the hardwood. What if I told you that right now, in this moment, I feel completely safe? Then I'd say you're not taking this seriously enough. I was close enough now to see the pulse beating in her throat, the way her breathing had changed. Or maybe you're taking it too seriously? That's when I made my move. A calculated stumble, perfectly timed and completely convincing. My ankle turned and I fell forward, right into Kennedy's arms. Her reflexes were perfect. She caught me instantly, one arm around my waist, the other steadying my shoulder. Oops, I murmured, letting my lips brush against her scarred knuckles as she held me. For a heartbeat, we stayed frozen like that. Then Kennedy's restraint snapped like a tripwire. This is a really bad idea, she growled, even as her hand slid under my thighs, lifting me effortlessly. I wrapped my legs around her waist, my mouth finding the pulse point in her throat. Then stop me. Her answer was to carry me to the couch, her control finally, completely shattered. When she laid me down, her touch was reverent and desperate all at once. Her holster hit the floor with a soft thud, followed by her jacket, and when she leaned over me, her eyes were wild with want. Camilla, she whispered, my name a broken prayer on her lips. I know, I breathed, pulling her down to me. I know. What happened next was everything I'd imagined and more. Kennedy was gentle and fierce, controlled and wild, professional and completely, utterly mine. Her mouth found every sensitive spot I didn't know I had, her hands mapping my body like she was memorizing it for evidence. When she pinned my wrists above my head, her eyes boring into mine, I felt safer and more dangerous than I ever had in my life. You sure about this? She asked, her voice raw. My answer was to arch up and capture her mouth with mine, tasting the desperation we'd both been fighting for weeks. Somewhere in the passion and the firelight, neither of us noticed the small red light still blinking on Kennedy's earpiece, forgotten on the floor beside us. The open channel transmitted every gasp, every whispered endearment, every broken moan to an empty command center. But we weren't the only ones listening. Sarah Martinez had always been patient. It was her greatest strength and ultimately her greatest weakness. She'd watch from the shadows as my career soared past hers, as publishers courted me while rejecting her manuscripts, as the world celebrated the success she believed should have been hers. I didn't know about the cameras she'd hidden in my building during the surprise visit weeks earlier. Didn't know about the security feeds she'd hacked, or the countless hours she'd spent watching Kennedy and me dance around each other. All I knew was that someone was making my life hell, and Sarah was the only person who'd ever had reason to hate me. But Sarah's hatred went deeper than professional jealousy. She'd been in love with me since college, a secret she'd carried like a poison in her heart. Watching Kennedy touch me the way she'd always dreamed of, that was the final straw. The morning after the storm, I woke up in Kennedy's arms on the couch, sunlight streaming through the windows. She was already awake, her body tense against mine, and I knew without asking that she was regretting everything. "This can't happen again," she said quietly, her fingers still tangled in my hair. "Why not?" "Because I'm here to protect you, not..." She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. "Not what? Care about me? Want me?" I turned in her arms, forcing her to look at me. "Because I have news for you, Agent Stone. It's too late for that." Her eyes were tortured. "Camila, if anything happened to you because I was distracted, nothing's going to happen to me." How wrong I was. The package arrived that afternoon. No return address, just my name written in Sarah's familiar handwriting. Inside was a flash drive and a single sheet of paper with an address and a time. Pier 47, midnight. Come alone. Or everyone sees what Kennedy really does to protect you. My blood ran cold. Kennedy took one look at my face and was instantly on alert. "What is it?" I handed her the note, watched her expression harden as she read it. "They have surveillance footage," I whispered. Kennedy's jaw clenched. "Impossible. I sweep this place daily for bugs." But even as she said it, I could see doubt creeping into her eyes. She immediately began another sweep, her movement sharp and efficient. It took her 20 minutes to find the first camera, hidden in the crown molding above my desk. Then another in the bedroom. Another by the bar. "Shit," Kennedy breathed, staring at the tiny device in her palm. "These are military grade. Whoever placed these as serious resources?" "Sarah," I said. "It has to be Sarah." Kennedy was already on her phone, calling her team, running background checks, pulling financial records. What they found painted a picture of obsession and escalation that made my skin crawl. Sarah had been planning this for months, maybe years. The threatening letters were just the beginning. "She's not just trying to scare you," Kennedy said grimly, reviewing the files. "She's trying to destroy you. Professionally, personally, completely." But Sarah had made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated Kennedy Stone. Kennedy transformed before my eyes. The passionate woman who'd held me the night before disappeared, replaced by something cold and lethal. This was Kennedy the soldier. Kennedy the protector, Kennedy the hunter. "You're not going to that pier," she told me, her voice brooking no argument. "If I don't show, she released the footage anyway. This isn't about negotiation, Camila. This is about elimination." The words sent chills down my spine. "What are you talking about?" Kennedy's eyes met mine, and I saw something there that was both terrifying and oddly comforting. "I'm talking about ending this permanently." She made a series of calls, her voice crisp and professional as she coordinated with her team. I watched her work, marveling at the transformation. This was why she'd been hired to protect high-value targets. This was why she was the best. "Sarah Martinez," Kennedy said into her headset, "I need everything. Bank records, phone logs, travel, history, known associates, and I need it in 1 hour." While her team worked, Kennedy sat me down and explained the plan. "Sarah thinks she's calling the shots. But she's about to learn what happens when you threaten someone under my protection. Kennedy, I don't want you to do anything illegal. Her smile was sharp as a blade. Don't worry, sweetheart. Everything I'm about to do is completely legal. It's just not going to be pleasant. The evidence Kennedy's team uncovered was damning. Sarah had been embezzling from her publishing house to fund her surveillance operation. She'd been using fake identities to send the threatening letters. Most damaging of all, she'd been selling insider information about upcoming book releases to competing publishers. She's done, Kennedy said, reviewing the files. Career over, reputation destroyed, criminal charges pending. All we have to do is make the right phone calls, but I had a better idea. Let's give her what she wants, I said. Let's go to the pier. Kennedy's head snapped up. Absolutely not. Think about it. She's expecting me to come alone and scared. What if I show up with backup? What if we turn this around on her? Kennedy was already shaking her head. Too dangerous. Too many variables. But it would end this once and for all. I reached for her hands, felt the tension in her muscles. No more hiding, no more threats. We face her together, and we finish it. For a long moment, Kennedy was silent. Then, slowly, she nodded. Together, but we do this my way. Pier 47 at midnight was like something out of one of my thrillers. Fog rolled off the water, and the only light came from widely spaced street lamps. That created more shadows than illumination. Kennedy had positioned her team strategically around the pier, invisible but ready. I wore a wire, and she was in constant communication with Overwatch. Sarah was waiting for me at the end of the pier, silhouetted against the dark water. She looked different than I remembered, thinner, sharper, consumed by whatever poison had been eating at her for years. Hello, Camila, she said as I approached. Right on time, Sarah. I kept my voice steady, professional. It's been a while. Not long enough, apparently. Her laugh was bitter. Do you know how long I've been waiting for this moment? How long I've watched you get everything that should have been mine? Sarah, whatever this is about, it's about justice. Her voice echoed across the water. It's about you finally getting what you deserve. She held up a tablet, and I could see video footage queued up on the screen. My heart sank as I recognized the scene Kennedy and me on my couch, lost in each other, completely unaware we were being watched. One click, Sarah said, her finger hovering over the upload button. One click and the whole world sees what a hypocrite you are. The pure romance novelist who fucks her bodyguard. Your career will be over. Maybe, I said carefully. Or maybe people will see two adults who found each other despite impossible circumstances. Sarah's eyes narrowed. You always were naive. That's when Kennedy stepped out of the shadows behind her. Sarah Martinez, she said, her voice carrying clearly across the pier. You're under arrest. Sarah spun around, startled. You're supposed to come alone. Funny thing about death threats, Kennedy said, moving closer with predatory grace. They tend to make me paranoid. Sarah's finger moved toward the tablet screen, but Kennedy was faster. In one fluid motion, she knocked the device from Sarah's hands and sent it skittering across the pier. It shattered against a concrete piling, taking the footage with it. You bitch, Sarah snarled, lunging forward. She'd forgotten she was dealing with someone trained to kill with her bare hands. Kennedy sidestepped dizzily, grabbed Sarah's wrist, and had her face down on the pier in seconds. The handcuffs appeared as if by magic. Sarah Martinez, Kennedy said formally, you're under arrest for stalking, extortion, fraud, and about 6 other felonies I'll let the lawyers sort out. As Kennedy's team moved in to take Sarah into custody, she looked up at me with pure hatred in her eyes. This isn't over, Camila. You think you've won, but this isn't over. I knelt down beside her, keeping my voice gentle. Yes, it is, Sarah. It's over. Kennedy helped me to my feet, her arm coming around my waist in a gesture that was both protective and possessive. You okay? I leaned into her strength, feeling the adrenaline finally starting to fade. Yeah, I'm okay. But even as we watched Sarah being led away, I knew this was just the beginning of our real story. The arrest made headlines, but not for the reasons Sarah had hoped. Instead of destroying me, her obsession had made her the villain of the story. The evidence Kennedy's team had compiled painted a picture of a woman consumed by jealousy and delusion, and public sympathy swung firmly in my direction. My publisher was thrilled. "This is the best publicity we could have asked for," he said during an emergency meeting. Dangerous, obsessed stalker, heroic bodyguard, best-selling author. In peril, it's like something out of one of your novels. But the attention came with a price. Reporters camped outside my building. Photographers with telephoto lenses tried to catch glimpses of Kennedy and me together. Speculation about our relationship ran rampant on social media and gossip sites. Kennedy hated it. "This is exactly what I was trying to avoid," she said, pacing my living room like a caged animal. "You're more exposed now than you were with Sarah making threats." "The threats are over," I pointed out. "Are they?" She stopped pacing, fixed me with those still gray eyes. "What happens when they start digging into my background? When they find out about my military service, about the things I've done?" I could hear the self-doubt in her voice, the old wounds that hadn't fully healed. "Kennedy, look at me." She reluctantly met my eyes. "I don't care about your past. I care about the woman who protected me, who put herself on the line for me, who compromised her professional integrity by sleeping with her client." The words hung between us like a challenge. I stood up, moved toward her until we were inches apart. "Who fell in love with someone worth protecting?" I said softly. Kennedy's composure cracked. "Camila, that's what this is, isn't it? Love." For a moment, she looked terrified. Then slowly, she nodded. "Yeah, that's what this is. Then we face it together. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Kennedy's answer was to kiss me, fierce and desperate and full of promise. When we broke apart, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Together," she whispered. 3 days later, everything changed again. I was in the middle of a phone interview with a literary magazine when Kennedy burst through my office door, her face white with shock. "We need to talk," she said. "Now." I quickly ended the call and gave her my full attention. "What's wrong?" Kennedy held up her phone, showing me a news article. The headline made my blood run cold. "Romance novelist Bodyguard, decorated veteran or dangerous killer?" "They found out about Morocco," Kennedy said, her voice hollow. "About the mission that went wrong. About the civilians who died." I scanned the article quickly, my heart sinking with every paragraph. Some enterprising journalist had dug into Kennedy's military record and found the classified operation that had ended her army career. The article painted her as a trigger-happy soldier who'd caused unnecessary casualties, a dangerous woman with blood on her hands. "Kennedy," I started, but she was already shaking her head. "You don't understand. Those people, they weren't combatants. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and her voice broke. I gave the order that got them killed." I set down the phone and moved toward her, but she backed away. "Don't," she said. "Don't touch me. Not until you know the whole truth." So she told me about the intelligence that was wrong, about the split-second decision in a firefight that saved her team but cost innocent lives, about the investigation, the court-martial that cleared her of wrongdoing but couldn't clear her conscience. "I left the army after that," she finished. "Couldn't trust myself anymore. Started doing private security because at least then I was only responsible for one person at a time." When she was done, the silence stretched between us like a chasm. Kennedy stood rigid, waiting for judgment, for rejection, for confirmation that she was exactly the monster the article painted her. Instead, I moved to her, took her face in my hands, and made her look at me. You were a soldier, I said quietly. In an impossible situation, you made a decision to protect your team. The fact that you carry that weight, that you've spent years trying to atone for it, that tells me everything I need to know about who you are. Kennedy's eyes searched mine. You really believe that? I believe in you. I believe in us. I brushed my thumb across her cheek, felt her lean into the touch. And I think it's time we told the world exactly who we are. The press conference was Kennedy's idea, though she looked like she was facing a firing squad as we sat behind the podium, microphones and cameras trained on us like weapons. The questions came fast and brutal. Miss Flores, are you romantically involved with your bodyguard? Agent Stone, how do you respond to allegations that you're unfit for protective duty? Is it true that you've been having an affair while under protection? I let them throw their shots, watched Kennedy's jaw tighten with each invasive question. Finally, I'd had enough. I reached for the microphone, and the room fell silent. You want to know about my relationship with Kennedy Stone? I said, my voice carrying clearly through the speakers. Then let me tell you exactly who she is. I told them about the woman who'd stood between me and danger without hesitation, about the professional who'd never once put her own interests above my safety, about the person who'd taken down a stalker who'd been terrorizing me for months. Kennedy Stone is the best bodyguard I've ever worked with, I continued. She's also the woman I'm in love with. And if you have a problem with that, I glanced at Kennedy, saw her steel gray eyes soften with something that looked like pride. Good luck. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, but I only had eyes for Kennedy. She was looking at me like I'd just performed a miracle, like I'd given her something she'd never thought she could have. Your turn, I murmured, pushing the microphone toward her. Kennedy leaned forward, and when she spoke, her voice was steady and strong. I've served my country and my clients with honor. I've made mistakes, and I've paid for them. But protecting Camila Flores, that's not a mistake. That's the best thing I've ever done. She paused, looked directly into the cameras. As for our relationship, yes, we're together. Yes, I love her. And yes, I'll continue to protect her for as long as she have me. The questions came again, but we were done answering. Kennedy stood, offered me her arm, and together we walked out of that room and into whatever came next.